Strange things are emerging, with two series diverging, but now reactions are surging. A new series, Skibidi Toilet Emergence, began, but the reaction it got was not part of the plan, with an all-new voice cast and paced quite fast. It's a strong contrast to episodes past, but how long will it last after the hatred masked? Let's explore why Skibidi Toilet Emergence might be a Skibidi Toilet Emergency. Yo guys, Plunger here. So, what is Emergence? Skibidi Toilet Emergence is a new companion series to Skibidi Toilet. Let's break some misconceptions off the top. Emergence is not a replacement for the main series, but it's also not a one-off. It's not a test animation. It's the first episode for a brand new side series. The series will seemingly follow a side plot focused on Lucky Cameraman and his importance to a plan by the secret agent. This first episode was built up to with a 3-day live stream and a countdown. We had just received the news that a new era was coming, and the hype was absolutely peaking. For a while, everyone was expecting this to be building up to episode 80, but soon, it became clear it'd be something else. Executive produced by Boom, Emergence is developed in brand new animation software, Unreal Engine, by a new team of animators, not by Boom. It features new voice actors, a new animation style, and a new approach to lore and storytelling. This is all part of a recent push to give fans more regular Skibidi content, perhaps even weekly, according to an article from early October. On the surface, it's an incredible idea, and it has so much potential. It begins with an atmospheric and emotional narrated recap of the entire plot thus far. It shows us a montage of clips, including scenes taken directly from Boom's episodes, but re-rendered in slow motion and new camera angles, which I absolutely loved seeing. This is certainly an attempt to make the series more accessible for new viewers, and I think it does that extremely well. This is followed by a really cool-looking title sequence, and honestly, this definitely built some hype for me in those moments. And then, the episode began. We begin at the entrance of Alpha Hills. It's just us, Lucky cuffed by detective, and a TV man. Avoiding a specialist, we make a break for it, and we enter. Lucky, using the master key, infiltrates the base. We lose the signal, but quickly regain it and see the squad in a hallway. Our POV notices the the secret agent's voice through a crack in the wall. In that room, we see Hunter and a bunch of troops keeping tabs on many Alliance camera feeds, which all show the agent's face, repeating, "Follow my signal, Lucky." However, we are spotted, resulting in the first TV death, and thus initiates a chase sequence while the base goes into lockdown. This ends with us finding a storage room to hide in. Then, something wild happens to Lucky and we all begin to float into some form of portal. We awaken in a room, some kind of secret lab, with dead skeletal remains all around us. The secret agent speaks to us via hologram. He mentions the master key has fused to Lucky Cameraman, explaining that Lucky Cameraman is the key for the secret weapon. The machine draws 3 powers, red, green, and blue, aka RGB. And finally, we learn that Lucky is necessary to finish what the agent could not. Then, Hunter arrives, kidnapping Lucky and killing the POV as the detective escapes through a vent. And that's Emergence. So, after I watched this, I wasn't quite sure what to think for a while. On the one hand, I could see what they were going for, the vision, and on the other hand, I recognized the problems right away and immediately knew what the wider reaction was going to be. And that fan reception was, well, we can say this episode did one thing spectacularly. It united all corners of the fandom together in total concern, into a kind of alliance, you might say. While I didn't connect with it myself, Emergence has its fans for sure. Many reactors didn't seem to mind it at all, but it has a near infinite supply of detractors, and thus forms the subject for this video. The complaints range from things such as the software, animation style, visual storytelling, all the way to plot holes. No corner of this release has been safe from fan scrutiny. And further to the new episode itself, for many, it's cast a long shadow over the future of Skibidi Toilet in its entirety. Now, amongst those screaming doom and gloom, there are those that, much like in the past with Boom, call for patience and understanding, and to just enjoy the extra content and let the team cook. Personally, I'm always sympathetic to this mindset, and I've always defended Boom's process when facing intense public pressure. There is a difference here, though. This situation is unlike the complaints levied at Boom in the past, and the issues present in this episode have never manifested before. And unlike Boom, this new team, and by extension, IMatii, have not yet proven that they can correctly pull off Skibidi Toilet's style, or even understand how to. This is all further exacerbated by the recent announcement of Boom no longer animating or even directing most episodes, the recent corporate shifts on social media, and Boom's blatant distancing from the series as of late. This all combines to create a palpable feeling of unease and distrust in the community, which is manifesting in many ways right now. Regardless of how you feel, the fandom's overall reaction to this episode is undeniable. Throughout this video, I'll be diving into everything people have been complaining about, so everyone can understand exactly why this episode sparked the reaction it did. Consider this a friendly guide to why Emergence has people saying Skibidi died. As mentioned, this new series is not created in SFM, but in Unreal Engine. Swapping one game engine for another is quite a smart move. I can certainly see why they would choose it. Unreal is, of course, much more capable than SFM. It can make full use of modern hardware, and is generally a more accessible pipeline for existing professionals. Emergence is certainly not pushing Unreal's boundaries even slightly, but I have no complaints at all about the new engine. Now, I've seen actually a lot of people yearning for SFM to return, as if it's the answer to all the issues they see. Though if you pay attention, the vast majority of complaints being levied have little to do with the software itself, and everything to do with the approach to storytelling visually and verbally. SFM is a tool used by a creator, not the end result. Sure, SFM is a handy shorthand for the previous era, but let's not misunderstand the problem here. The same team doing the same thing with a different software would simply result in the same complaints. So, no, the use of Unreal is not causing the issues here. Okay, so there's also the effects, which I'd like to touch on. In Unreal Engine, effects can be taken to the next level. But here they seem to be an imitation of those created in SFM. These sparks are imitating these sparks. This fire is imitating this fire. Clearly, attempts were made to replicate the feel of the OG series. Thing is, rather than an SFM limitation, it feels more like a deliberate choice. Skibidi Toilet was always approaching cinematic realism, not cartoonishness, even if it never quite got there due to software and asset limitations. I think a majority of people were hoping that a shift to a more powerful engine might push that detail even harder. But instead, it leans hard into cartoonishness. I've used effects as the example here, but as you will see, this issue of style will extend through everything. It can be argued that style direction is a matter of taste. However, in my opinion, the increasing realism and cinematic quality of Skibidi Toilet significantly amplified and grounded its otherwise absurd events. Through adopting a more realistic style, the series transformed its chaotic and wacky concepts into something that feels tangible and emotionally impactful. The heightened realism allows viewers to truly feel the weight of battles, sacrifices, and character moments, making the story more immersive and believable than if it had leaned into a purely cartoonish style. And we're seeing that here. It's simply one of the many ways Emergence diverges from what we've come to expect. To be honest, this all just makes me very curious what visual direction the Bay project is taking. Frantic. That's my review of the animation in Emergence. The best way I can describe it is weightless and cartoony. And no, that's not to insult, it's descriptive. The poses characters hit are very exaggerated. Just look at the way Lucky moves here. Look how clunky this hand movement is. Not only that, but these movements between poses will happen extremely fast. Just look at how rapidly the detective vanishes in this scene. Movements aren't eased into. They happen very quickly, discreetly, and suddenly. It's very pose to pose. Look how still these characters suddenly become here when standing by this door. This freeze, then quick movement, then freeze style is very prevalent in Emergence. Later on, when the trio begin to float up, their movements begin so abruptly. And this is a great example of another issue. There's a distinct lack of easing with movement. It seems that most movements just begin and end at their maximum speed. Another example of abrupt motions with very little easing is this scene where the POV hands the detective a photo of the secret agent. That all happens so unrealistically fast. Now check it out after it's been retimed. It just feels more like the characters are actually there, actually doing things and actually making decisions. And now that you've seen that, look at the original again. You can see the vision, right? Not that this photo is even new to the detective. Typically, actions in Skibidi Toilet occur very slowly and thoughtfully. You might say realistically, but I'd go so far as to say various things are made deliberately slow to make everything extra readable for the viewer. I'll be diving more into the visual communication later, so let's move on. Next example is when we look into the room where the Astro troops and the Hunter are watching the camera feeds. When he sees our view, Bro shifts from side to side like a hummingbird. Now I do get what this scene is trying to convey, but it's so fast and so abrupt, and with absolutely no acceleration or easing. Yes, of course, Astros are fast, but typically not such small rapid movements. When an Astro moves quickly or warps, They either have to accelerate into it or build up to it and let it all go in one large burst. This balances Astros so they can't just zip behind you within a couple frames and cook you. This guy shifts around with very little weight or effort, as if he's a PNG being dragged back and forth by a mouse cursor. And if he can shift so fast, why would he turn so slowly? Anyway, unfortunately, over-exaggerating and speed are not the only issues. In some moments, things are clearly lacking life. We see these characters here, all standing like NPCs with their arms to their sides. What are they even looking at here? They aren't facing the screens. Polycephaly is hanging out behind them. But I wouldn't blame you if you didn't even spot him. He doesn't even get to speak or fit in frame or receive any attention at all, just standing upright. And we get a great view of his legs, I suppose. Wait, but didn't he? Oh, never mind, I guess. When they turn around, they all turn at the same time, at the same speed. Their upper torsos all twist and contort, a bit like a Mix-a-Mo animation. Okay, but that's all general stuff. Time to really deep dive into a scene where the laws of physics themselves break down. Check out this moment where Lucky and the detective decapitate an enormous astro troop. The detective kicks Lucky, which seemingly causes him to fly up into the air, and then so does the detective. This somehow results in them both being multiple meters in the air, conveniently stretching their cuffs right into the path of the astro, which effortlessly severs Bro's cranium from titanium. Let's pay close attention to the physics here. I think the detective is supposed to be pulled upwards by Lucky's motion, maybe, but his arm is never tugged along that path. In fact, it clips down into his torso. Look how the detective's other arm points up for 1 or 2 frames here also. The link of the cuffs stretches like rubber spaghetti, even though when we've seen it before, it was much stronger and tighter. Much like the show, this scene is a potentially cool idea, just let down by strange execution. Finally, let's follow Bro's signals and see how he moves. In the original series, the administrator is deliberate and methodical in his movements. He sits very still and moves with purpose. This perfectly fits his character. You always get the impression that there's an enormity hiding behind his otherwise human form, that he's 10 steps ahead. Here, he's having fun wiggling back and forth on his little computy chair. But for real, the problem here is he's moving pretty much exactly like every other character. Exaggerated movements, somewhat awkward idles. It's all there, much like with the others. Similarly, when the hunter picks up Lucky at the end, rather than panicking or struggling, or running away for that matter, you know, the thing he's known for, he does a generic little floaty kick with his lil Lucky feets. In these examples, not only are motions unfitting for the character, but also for the situation they are in. When animating these characters, 3 things need to be taken into account: the realism of the motion, the readability of the actions, and the relatability to the character itself. So why worry about all of this? Well, this demonstrates a lack of understanding of the source material and what the audience expects from this world. It's just not the best fit at all. These aren't just mascots, they aren't just archetypes. These are characters from a rich and vibrant world, with their own personalities and development. Even though they don't have faces, when they appear on screen we feel a connection to them. We become attached to their arcs and their motivations. To see them just watered down, behaving all wrong is, well, all wrong. It's not enough to just have characters doing the right things. How they do them is just as, if not more, important. Another major complaint is the character models, specifically the new ones which replace the SFM originals, and there's quite a mix of both here to amplify that contrast all the more. During the episode itself, most of the characters we see are brand new models, while the secret agent is most certainly his SFM model, oddly enough. On these new Alliance models, people have been pointing out the strange rubbery smoothness on clothing. For example, a lack of seams on clothing here, and a general lack of texture and detail. Moving to Unreal, you certainly wouldn't expect to see the models lower in detail. The dichotomy just amplifies the whiplash. Another issue are the character sizes, which look quite odd here. We are aware TV Woman is tall, but something definitely feels off here. And we've seen the senior scientist cameraman standing next to a speakerman before, and they are around the same height. It's no surprise to us that the strongest Skibidi fans get really into the different sizes and attributes of characters, estimating and even tracking sizes as they change between upgrades. To see characters change size at random, assumedly by accident, is just yet another proverbial spit in the face to everything that's built up so far. But it doesn't stop at Alliance sizes. The Astros here are quite large. We get a good look at the size of an Astro troop compared to normal agents in episode 76, with a normal agent measuring very close to that of a troop, especially if they were standing upright. And in 79, we get to see one near the detective, showing they are comparable in height. Whereas in Emergence, these agents are around half the height, if that. This change is quite dramatic, and we can't be sure it was deliberate. How does this even happen? Has Boom not shared his notes? This is another aspect that causes people to feel that something is off. In addition to overall size, we have proportions to consider. Astros in this episode have much larger heads than we are used to. Head size is another thing that varies in Skibidi Toilet, but here they are indeed consistently larger. From troops to specialists to the hunter. It all adds to the cartoony feel. Now how about dem faces, huh? I'm not gonna lie, it's the easiest thing to meme about, but I do not really care that the faces look a bit different here. In fact, I think the team did a really good job trying to match the SFM smile at its extremes. But this right here is my favorite face in the entire show. Absolute cinema. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What about all those models that had missing parts? Another thing people have been discussing at length are the animation errors and glitches, and I've got some experience looking for them. Let's quickly run through some oopsies. This scene has no motion blur. These cuffs are loose. Lucky could just slip out of these low poly hula hoops, bro. Lucky tugs away from the detective and stops as if he's stuck, but the link remains slack throughout, not even being tugged, resulting in it just looking like he's dancing. This Astro has no toilet bowl. This Astro has no toilet bowl either. This Astro also has no toilet bowl. You can see where his neck tapers to a point. This Astro also has no toilet bowl, and his head is outside of his body. Yet another Astro without a toilet bowl. Essentially every troop. This Astro phases right through this door in plain view. Oh, and he also has no toilet bowl. When the POV picks up the picture, there's some strange crumpling going on in the wrist. So yeah, obviously this thing has some mistakes, and this kind of thing will only strengthen any negative vibes people have. Okay, let's move on. We are far from done. My main issue with the way this episode is presented would be the pacing. It's frenzied and unclear, both in terms of the events and the POV's presentation of those events. Literally a few seconds in, the shot just cuts forward in time for no reason. Cuts during the episode may be a stylistic choice, but here it's pretty random. We just suddenly end up calmly at an internal door, while just a moment previously, we were making a break for it among Astro chaos. Why did we need to skip that moment? Why was it stylized like the feed fuzzed out? It's not like there are many other cuts throughout the video. In addition, right after that cut, we then get distracted again by the moment of the feed cutting out. Why? Why was this scene even spliced in here? It doesn't cause any tension, nothing changes. Seemingly it was purely added to establish who's watching. Instead, how about a scene at the start establishing what's going on and who the POV is? These are examples of what I will call incoherence, where one thing happens and then another thing happens with very minimal connective tissue between them. But it's not just cuts that make the pacing so hard to follow. It's a combination of the frantic animation and the amount of events stuffed into 5 minutes. Let's talk about giving moments time to breathe. As the POV slides down this pole, he instantly transitions to walking through a doorway within a couple frames, not even taking a beat to show us landing. And let's not forget the frantic animation, even for scenes as simple as handing someone a photo. Look at this thumbs up from the POV. Oh, you didn't see it? Look again. It's there, but you wouldn't know it. No one is seeing that on their first watch, or even their second. Let's compare it to what we are used to. Even in intense action or chase scenes, Boom would very deliberately allow the viewer to train their eye on events before moving on to the next. If you've seen my glitches video, you'll remember a very interesting visual trick that Boom used often to improve the pacing and readability in fight scenes. Look at this shot exiting the right of frame. Then the camera pans to the right to frame the target of the shot. Notice we didn't see the projectile during the pan at all. Then, as we settle on the target, it re-enters the left of frame. That's 2 separate particles Boom has deliberately timed to make the action readable. Same happened with the Hunter in 78, where he pauses off frame so that we get to see the rest of his movement after the camera pans. Boom was a master at pacing and visual communication, and I say that with full-on Krispy Kreme glaze. It's just a fact. This is something viewers became very accustomed to throughout Skibidi Toilet's runtime. Having it all suddenly ripped away in an official series is, naturally, going to cause turbulence. Emergence misses these specific Boom traits, but I'd also argue it misses the mark on visual communication overall, even when compared to other media. Instead, focusing on making the action as fast and frantic as possible. Let's continue, as there are more interesting examples of this. One of the other main limiting factors for the visual communication this episode is the POV. The POV is incredibly important. It's our cameraman, literally. And Boom will often bend rules and frame shots very deliberately. However here, the zooming and panning in this episode is all over the place. Look at this shot. And this shot. And this shot. The camera is so zoomed in, it's hard to tell what's going on. And this just keeps on happening. Boom typically used a very wide angle field of view. It's extremely dynamic for action. It helps you see everything happening around you and gather important context for where everything is. And that's how he's able to slip in all of these secrets off to the very edges, while not distracting from the main action. He only zooms in when it's necessary to focus on something. Even then, he might cheat and actually physically move the camera to retain that wide angle look. Speaking of that, a similar thing happens in Emergence, but it's an example of what not to do. In the scene where Lucky needs to follow a signal, our POV, after peeping through this crack in the wall, phases through with an oddly placed transition. This doesn't come off like a zoom at all. It genuinely looks like the camera just popped through the gap. I get why they did it. They needed a wide angle to show the scene correctly, but it could most certainly have been done more fluently. Okay. Let's look at some more poorly communicated moments. That scene where Lucky first charges up and suddenly kills a specialist. We didn't even see or hear that specialist coming. The first time we even get a good look at it, it's dead. Another odd disconnect is towards the end, where the hunter appears in the lab they teleported into. But we don't actually see it happen. We don't know how he found us, nor how he entered. We just hear a sound and the screen fades to black for a moment. There's this fire on the ceiling, but that's about it. Again, this just wouldn't happen in the original series. We'd hear the approach, we'd see them enter, we'd see the damage they caused and the hole they came in through. It's all small details, but again, these small things add up to the viewer not being totally confused at what they just saw. Okay, that's all I'll say for the episode's visual communication. I've shown key examples here, but these issues plague the entire episode to varying degrees. And thanks to this, you may have to watch a segment a good 5 or 6 times, or at a slower speed, to even realize what was intended. The speech in this episode feels a bit contrived. Firstly, I find it odd that people now name-drop the official branding names for characters and groups in the show as if they were always called that. The voiceover at the beginning, which is someone's daughter, makes direct references to Astros and Secret Agent and the Alliance, and even Lucky Cameraman. These names were never once used in the show, because they weren't canon. They were shorthands and fan-made names which Boom adopted in descriptions and captions, but were absolutely not diegetic nor part of the lore. In the series, we only knew of the Secret Agent as the Administrator. In the series, we only knew of the Astros as the Invaders. In the series, we only knew of the Alliance as Star, or Robots, or Clankers. As for Lucky Cameraman, Bro would have both a real name from when he was human and a code name on his tablet. But the first thing we hear in the show is Lucky Cameraman. Sure, the names in Emergence are presented as nicknames, not necessarily their genuine titles, but it's still a bit disconnected. Sooner or later, we'll hear G-Toilet genuinely being called G-Toilet in the show, which I do not want to hear. This weirdness is later exacerbated later with the repetition of "follow my signal, Lucky" over and over again. Why would the Administrator also be using this quirky lil nickname for Bro? To me, it feels like these decisions were intended to both make things easier to follow for new viewers and marry the series with the merch a little more. But this is simply a heavy-handed way to do it in my opinion. Moving on, there are also some moments during the episode where dialogue occurs, when it really shouldn't. At the beginning, the TV man warns us of a specialist approaching, while it's already here, mere meters away. When we enter the hallway, the TV man talks, telling us to get down without even looking at us, or moving at all for that matter. Before Bro dies, he literally says, "Time for me to leave," with a winky face in the captions. Was Bro really about to dip? Firstly, why would he announce it? And secondly, while yes, TV men have stranded cameramen before, they had motivation to do so, as they believed teleporting the samples were more important in those moments. Then towards the end, we have quite a lot of unnecessary exposition. Firstly, the Secret Agent. Did we need a full-on hologram showing the entire weapon while the Secret Agent explicitly explains what it is and what the plan is? Bro might as well have broadcasted the entire plan to Lucky, because the damn hunter seemingly heard everything. Also, did we need the hunter to explain what he was going to do to us and Lucky before he did it? Age-old show, don't tell. You don't need me to explain to you why not everything needs to be explained verbally. Though, with how frantic everything is in Emergence, it might be an exception. Let's make subtlety fashionable again, please. So far, we've focused a lot on the visuals and the way characters do things. Simple stuff. Let's zoom out a bit now, because this episode does something that would be a lot less easy to fix in subsequent installments. It disrupts the mystery of Skibidi Toilet, and often just makes little sense given what we know about how these characters operate. Okay, there's a lot to talk about here, so let's go through these common complaints one by one. Firstly, look at our tiny squad. Why are we on this extremely important mission alone? Just 4 of us, 2 of which are chained together. Where are the reinforcements? To even be risking themselves this badly, they must know the importance of it. So you'd think they'd dedicate a few more resources to protecting Lucky, or themselves in general. We don't even have any weapons or anything of the sort, just this little gun. Next, where on earth did Lucky get the master key from? As far as we know, he never retrieved it from the scientist's lab. It's possible they did, but nothing like this was ever communicated to the audience. After it's dropped on the floor, it completely vanishes, but we've never seen it since. As far as we know, it could have fallen into the pit that the second mech came from. So, why is this squad even here? Well, as the intro spelled out to us, they are following a signal sent by the secret agent, directed at Lucky Cameraman. Every cameraman's feed is being transmitted a message, "Follow my signal, Lucky." This signal is so extreme that not only are we aware, but the Astros are aware, and even the girl from the intro is aware. So everyone just knows about this mofo now? Why would the agent broadcast himself? Did they forget that the secret agent can already target specific cameramen and hack what they see? Dude's whole gig up to this point was disabling transmissions whenever he was around, only showing those what they needed to see, and now he does the opposite? Plungerman really died for no particular reason, and that's the core of why these kinds of issues really get at people. It doesn't endanger this episode, or even just this series alone. It risks absolutely tainting, or even spoiling, everything that has been built up so far. Then, add to this the fact that our POV's feed suddenly switches to a live broadcast at the worst moment. Why did this happen? Why only theirs? It'd already be a disgusting plot convenience even if all the feeds randomly reset in that moment. But our feed alone? Just us? That's just bizarre. What caused that? Did the secret agent just troll us, bro? Now for the big one. Emergence exposes things which hadn't been built up to yet. It has things previously shrouded in mystery emerge too quickly. That big mystery you were building up to? Here it is. A MacGuffin. Absolutely bare and absolutely naked. Look at it. It's the secret. Here's how it works. Look at it. The secret weapon. This wireframe of a simplistic cannon model, shown and explained to us in quick succession. Look at it. After one mysterious mention in season 25. Look at it. The funny part is, all we knew about it is that it was waiting for the right moment. This was not it. There's absolutely no build-up here, but it's more than just sudden. It feels cliché, a MacGuffin that just needs to be activated. This exact plot with these exact elements can work, and would have worked, but the way it's presented here is very in your face. A lot that was previously shrouded in mystery was dug up and laid bare, both for the audience and the characters. In addition, this scene misses out vital connections, like it was Mej Tej who first mentioned a secret weapon, yet we don't even get to see him or hear any reference to him before this fetch quest begins. I'd imagine the whole angle of Lucky Cam being important to the agent was planned, and not just made up by Inviz on the spot. This series has to fit in with the main canon of the show after all. It may even be what Boom meant when he said Lucky's capture was all part of the plan, and Boom likely had the plan for the energies of the various factions to be combined. But this is all presented so suddenly, and so casually. It feels too soon. So what has happened since the release? As I hinted at the start of this video, there's a bit more to this situation than just a goofy new series. Boom himself has been not so subtly distancing himself from the series when asked about it, and he's been interacting with posts commenting on Emergence's quality. And it's no secret that Inviz have been slowly deboomifying his socials lately. His posts and follows were removed from Instagram, though posts were put back a few days later. His profile picture, banner, video descriptions, and channel bio were all changed, with most of his non-Skibidi playlists being removed, seemingly demonstrating that a team, not Boom, now hold the keys to the castle. But to what end? This kind of erasure only serves to upset people. The best reason I can think of is that this is a sign of Boom's distancing from the series, because it makes complete sense not to masquerade like it's still him when it's actually a team. This is weird, as it all flies in the face of the public statement he shared, which gave the impression he was still strongly involved, just in a new role. He said he'll be shaping the world and directing special episodes, while working with a team of animators. However, Emergence feels like it had little to no Boom input whatsoever. Combined with the sanitizing of his socials, the deboomification truly feels real. Simply put, it feels that there's not much difference between what we see happening right now and what we'd see if Boom had quit entirely. If that all wasn't enough, his statement was even written in the font used by Inviz. And with all of this happening at once, the fanbase has been in quite the spiral about Invisible Narratives and their control of this franchise. Thus far, Inviz have not officially commented on this response. I think some kind of statement acknowledging the problems and committing to adjusting could have helped dampen the outrage tremendously and give people confidence. But instead, we get nothing. Why? Perhaps because they can't or won't change things. At least, that's how it's going to appear to the fans. As a result, there's been a lot of heated anger towards Invisible Narratives, picking and plucking at every thread possible. People are shocked to learn that Inviz completely own the IP. Though I've been sharing this since the start of this year, and happened all the way back in late 2023, people have also been digging back up the Gmod copyright strike situation, which was all known about and cleared up months ago. Some have been sharing leaks of private excitement from staff and DMs, hyping up Emergence before and after it released, and defending it when compared to Boom's work, which wasn't intended to be made into a public statement, obviously, and may not be representative of Inviz as a whole. But it adds to the troubling feeling, for sure. And there has been an increase in theories that they've forcefully ousted Boom, or that he's trapped in an agreement he dislikes. We have very little evidence of the motivations of these recent changes, though they are very real and saddening. Now, let me try and settle you down a notch. I genuinely share the concerns. I think this video so far demonstrates that. However, would it not be better to wait and see how Inviz responds, and if they adjust their output based on this feedback before raising pitchforks? Not saying it's likely, but you gotta give them the opportunity, right? So, Boom. Oh, Boomy Woomy. What is going on with our Skibidi Sigma? Given his original statement, we expected he'd be overseeing and approving of new content produced by a team. He mentioned he'd be shaping the world and directing special episodes. So not exactly hands-on, but still involved. However, after seeing Emergence, you'd think he didn't even know it was being made. His responses, or lack thereof, have only increased worry in the fandom. It's no secret that Boom has taken a noticeable step back, even beyond what he said in the statement. Prior to the drop of Emergence, he's answered questions from EBO in a very disconnected manner, uncharacteristically replying that he doesn't know about various questions posed about the series. Not exactly the response that instills the best confidence. He's also implied multiple times that he has a lot more free time now, most recently spending time in Korea heading to Japan. After how strongly we've heard him talk about multiverses regarding how they misrepresented his characters, it's strange that he seems to have such little involvement at the moment, resulting in, well, this video. We can't possibly know what's happened behind the scenes without them telling us. Everyone is quick to point their fingers at the company, but you have to consider the possibility that this could just be Boom's decision. I could understand if he just got tired of everything. Everyone has a limit. Sure, he's apparently sent emails hinting that fans should be louder, or liking tweets critical of Emergence, but you can dislike something while still being willfully disconnected from it. We simply don't know. Regardless of the reason, I wish the best for Boom in his next endeavors. So, will things improve? Here's the reality. For fan criticism to make a difference, two things have to be true. First, that the team genuinely cares about Skibidi Toilet, and second, that they're open to adapting based on feedback. If both of those are true, then respectful, constructive criticism is the only way to be understood. Attacking them only makes it easier to dismiss the feedback entirely. And if those things aren't true, if the team doesn't care and doesn't want to listen, then
we are so fucked.
So really, the only potential path forward is to voice concerns respectfully. As Boom said himself,
it's important not to bury this poison or let it control you, but to recycle this energy into something productive.
So, what are some positives to look for? Since Emergence, we've learned that the main series will, at least for now, continue to be created in SFM. Keeping SFM around for the main series is potentially a small glimmer of hope that they understand, at least somewhat, not to mess with the core. But remember, as I've said previously, it's not the software to worry about, it's the team. While SFM does imply different animators, it doesn't necessarily imply different writers. Brace yourselves, my lil skibidis. At the very least, though, this news has brought people some needed joy, and for that at least, I am happy. Anyway, Databio will soon hold an interview with Invisible Narratives, so we'll hopefully, maybe, get responses to our respectful questions and feedback there. I understand that I am far from the first to make a video breaking these kinds of things down. I want to shout out a small creator, Iron Cameraman, who has also been creating great and in-depth videos about this situation. Anyway, guys, keep discussion and feedback respectful and constructive. In the end, hopefully, the team follows the fandom's signal. If they do, we'll be lucky. Subscribe.